These guys are ridiculous. These guys are ridiculous.
Now, how about them damn Celtics?
And we are back with another episode of How About Them Celtics. Sam and I are here recording on Thursday, April 13th. We have a great guest, Bobby Manning of CLNS Media, with us later in the show. Bobby's the best. Thank you to him for joining us once again. But before we do that, we got to talk nonsense, just for Landon's sake, for everybody who enjoys its sake. And I'm going to start with Sam. Holy shit, it's hot. I'm dying.
Yeah.
This is why I like the wintertime. I usually sit crisscross applesauce in my seat. I've had to sit normal because my legs were sweating, and I'm stuck to my chair.
It's tough.
Horrible feeling. I hate it. Not fun. Give me wintertime.
I personally am a winter guy. I mainly because I like the Celtics playing. In the summer, you don't really get the Celtics.
Well, playoffs, but
you can see sleeveless today. You're welcome. If Bobby wasn't here, I probably would have did the shirtless. But out of respect, I kept my shirt on because that would have been really weird if he joined the room and I just wasn't wearing a shirt. But we had a fun day today. Nice work from home day. It was hot. Can't complain though. It is nice out. Basketball has been played outside this week. Earlier in the week, I felt very honored. We played down the street from my house. Jack was not there.
Was not there. Didn't get you.
With the regular crew, we did plan to go play, and I show up with this other guy first, and it's just the two of us. But there are probably high school kids there. Well, one of them might have bigger arms than me, which was tough. But they were picking teams. I got picked first, so just based on appearance, I'm nasty. I wouldn't want to. People see me and they're like, "Wow, I wouldn't want to have to play against this guy."
There you go.
And then they're grossly disappointed.
So where was my invite? It's kind of fucked up.
You were probably still sleeping.
Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Valid excuse.
Yeah, I think that had something to do with
that. Fair enough. No, it's we did play the other day. I played all right. It is a drive for me to get down there though. I've got to make the long trek, get on the highway. We're thinking about doing it tonight. I'll probably suck it up. I need the exercise. We'll see. But no, yeah, the hot weather not for me. My AC, tried to put the AC in today too, broken, doesn't work. Upsetting. You can see the sweat on the video a little bit.
Can you?
It's not that bad yet, but it's like glistening right here, the reflection off my face.
It would be really funny if because we already interviewed Bobby, spoiler alert, he's going to be here. But it would be funny if Jack progressively got sweatier throughout the interview. So he had a sweat ring around his neck, and then the interview starts and it's gone.
I don't think that'd be very funny. It
would ruin the movie magic for you people.
What's the word for that?
What?
There's a word for that.
Word for
what? Someone's holding a Coke can in one scene, then they're holding a Sprite can in the next scene. You know what I'm saying?
There is a word for that.
Do you know what I'm saying?
It's called error.
No, you're an asshole. There's a word for it. It's like movies I'm Googling now. These different soda. I don't even know.
It's true. Yes, there are different takes, and they, the can moves or somebody different's in the background. Or in Spider-Man, there's one scene where the same guy walks through the shot 10 times.
Exactly, a continuity error.
Okay.
That's the word.
Well, I had half it right.
Yeah, you had error.
I said error.
Sure. I'm mad you're right because you were an asshole to me. No, yeah, very hot out. Gonna be cold tomorrow, though. I think I was looking at the weather.
No.
I think not cold.
Not
tomorrow? Here it's Oh, never mind.
There are rumblings of beach days. Not for me, but for people I know.
79 for Friday, but Saturday 60. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday 53, 55, 60 with rain. So it's going right from summer back to fall, spring, crappy weather. That's because it looks like there's a storm coming up from the south.
A nor'easter.
Well, I don't know if it's coming up or down, but there is
I think
a
it
big
typically
storm.
goes up.
I don't know the weather. There is, if you can see, coming up the coast there, big little storm coming.
Oh dear. Get some
rain.
I sneaky love the rain.
Down.
Rain is probably the best.
Not bad
weather to run in my opinion.
They're going to say to hoop in. I was like, the ball slips. I don't think that's good at all.
No, you can't play in the rain. But when you go out running in the rain, it rules. One, it's not sweltering hot. You're not dying. Two, if it's raining, it's probably not that cold out because it's not snow.
Also,
and
probably not that hot out.
Exactly. Yeah, you're cooled off. It's like a free refresher when you're out there. 3, makes it easier for you to want to get home because it's raining. You don't want to be stuck out in the rain.
Sure.
And
Motivation.
most importantly, it feels very dramatic. It feels as if it's a important scene in a movie. You're outside,
Now, yeah.
perhaps running away from a killer, perhaps training for a big game, or maybe you imagine you are already in a big game and it's a big moment. It's just raining that day.
Do you still wear your AirPods in the rain? Like, is it fun?
Yes.
Okay.
So actually, if I run in the rain, I do have a headband that I will bring. And if it gets slippery, I will slip it over my ears to keep them locked in because it does become a problem. I have fallen victim to the concrete before, in front of a Stop and Shop, right at the entrance. I have slipped. Yeah, cut my right here, forearm.
What time do you run? Morning? Night?
Well, right now I'm not really running. But in my prime, last year when I was doing TV, I would have to run in the afternoon because I was getting into work at 4 a.m. I did run at 2 a.m. one time. It was terrifying. I will never do that.
Yeah, that sounds scary.
It was horrifying. And
did you have a light?
Yeah, I had a light. I had a big ass reflective vest. I went out at 2 because it was supposed to be 100 that day. So I was not going to go outside. And it was still hot as hell. I was terrified, so I was kind of out of breath more because I just was tense.
Sure.
It was a miserable run.
Okay.
Now I just go in the gym if it goes over 80. I just go on the treadmill. But now I'd be running in the morning.
Okay. Fair enough. Going back to the AirPods thing, I have a funny AirPod story. So it's not a long story. It's just entertaining. And I could probably pull up a picture. I'd have to find it, though. I sleep with my AirPods in sometimes to watch videos. Like,
isn't that dangerous?
Maybe. But I just put one in. I lay on my side. I put it in. Like if I'm in a place where it's like I'm not the only one who would be able to hear it. Like I'm not going to be obnoxious and play my video out loud because I can't sleep without a video on because of a child. And so I put the AirPod in. One day I woke up. My back was killing me. It feels like I'm getting stabbed in the back. You want to know why? I slept on my AirPod in the same position for so long that there was a dent in my back, like a red mark, almost broke skin dent. Cut me in the back.
Well, if you do fall asleep wearing AirPods, it may cause necrosis in your ears. And you may say, Sam, what's necrosis? Well, necrosis is the death of body tissue. It occurs when too little blood flows to the tissue. This can be from injury, radiation, or chemicals. Necrosis cannot be reversed. So it's irreversible damage you can cause to yourself.
Okay, well,
by trying to listen to some sweet YouTube videos while you fall asleep.
I don't want to hear that, Sam. That was rude.
Maybe you don't do that. You do want to hear it because if you don't hear it, perhaps you have permanent tissue damage.
Well, no, because the problem now is I'm still going to do it. And now I just know I'm damaging myself.
Well, I respect the hustle.
You got to do it.
That's like when they're like, hey, don't smoke cigarettes. And then you do it anyway.
I wouldn't say it's that bad. No, it's like I don't do it normally. It's just if I'm in a situation where I know the sound would bother somebody else, you got to do it. I'm trying to find the picture right now, but while I can tell a mini story while I try to find it. I did find a picture of a note. So in second grade, I broke my skull. I don't know if I've told that story on here before.
I don't know if you did tell that.
I think you might remember it. It was playing baseball, and it was after the game. It was the last game of the season. Everyone was hyped. Everyone was excited. And everyone's running around on the field, but there's this one kid who decided that he wanted to take practice swings. So me and my friend were playing tag, and he runs, and this kid takes a practice swing, and instead of a ball, he hits my head. And I collapse. I think I was knocked out for a couple seconds. I wasn't fully unconscious, but I was slumped. My mom looks over, and from her perspective, she goes, "Oh, damn, some kid got hurt." And then she does a double take, and someone goes, "I think
that's my kid."
Yeah. She goes, "I think that's your kid." And she runs on the field. My mom and dad drive me to the hospital. They said I fractured my skull, which my second grade self at the time thinks, "Oh, at least I didn't break it." Grow up to realize
it's literally what it means.
Means the same thing.
Yep.
There was blood in my brain. So how's that for an image for you? There you go. Probably why I'm as smart as as great as I am. I hope so. I'm okay. So I would assume. But do all the things, cracked skull. When you get hit in the head, how there's a big bump, right? Like a goose egg.
Yeah. Do you have a dent?
Yes. So apparently when you break your skull, it doesn't
go
out.
Permanent dent?
It goes in. No, I'm okay now. I don't think it's there at least. I don't remember what side it was on because I was 8 and I mean, I got hit in the head with the bat, so give me a break. But it came right after I was supposed to. I made the A team, right? This is my peak Jack sports performance.
Yeah,
made
because you were bad at baseball, by all accounts.
I was.
Yeah.
I was. Maybe because I got hit in the head, I was bad. But I made the A team that summer, all set to play. Boom, cracked in the head. I missed field day in elementary school. Disaster. Had to stay inside.
It is a disaster.
Couldn't go outside at recess. Had to stay in and play chess. Disaster. It was cool though. But you know the worst part? So I got to pick somebody to stay in with me every day, right? And at first, your reaction is, "Oh, that's cool. You got to pick a friend."
Well, it's kind of messed up.
What do you mean?
You were sneaky ruining somebody's day every day.
However, I couldn't pick the same person until I went through the entire class. So,
well, that's a disaster too, because then you have to hang out with the kids you don't like.
Exactly. However, I will say second grade Jack was chilling because none of the girls wanted to go outside for recess. So they really wanted to stay indoors. But back to the baseball thing. So I got picked for the A team, right? I'm still looking for this picture of the dent in my back. So don't worry. We will get back to that. But I picked for the A team. Obviously, not going to be at full strength. Got hit in the head with a baseball bat. Duh. They let me play with a helmet on. And you say, Jack, you're wearing a helmet and a bat. No. I had to wear a helmet in the field.
You had the John Olerud helmet.
And I could only play right field. So I was the right fielder with the helmet on. It was a very tough look. And throughout all of that, I still have not found the picture of the dent in my back. That's a lie. Nope, not a lie. I still don't have it. Is this the dent? That's not the dent. I did find the dent. And it's everything you might have dreamed of.
Yeah, it literally looks like you had sunscreen on except for an AirPod.
You see the bump too? That's like
you can see the bump.
That when I tell you the pain of waking up, I was so confused why my back hurt that bad. You want to know the worst part, Sam? This was the next night. Because when you don't learn from your mistakes, it happens again.
Is that the same spot?
No, different spot, I believe.
Spreading the wealth.
Yeah, of course. You got to. That one was, I believe, much lower on my back, if you catch my drift. But yeah, that is the story. You guys get two stories in one there.
Yeah.
You guys got two stories in one. Anyways, I think we can throw it over to our nice conversation with Bobby, where you guys will get some Celtics-Hawks talk instead of me getting hit in the head with the baseball bat. So,
little Fat Lowry.
All NBA.
Trae Young. Let's do Rat List.
Oh, you want to do that? You want to do it at the end? Or you want to cut it at the end, or do you want to do it now?
Why don't we cut it into the end?
Okay, we'll cut it in the end. So, hey, I'm leaving this in. You get to look forward to Rat List now.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
Yes.
Listen to the Bobby interview. Listen to us chat it up. Talk about the Celtics, and then you'll get Rat List. All right, here's Bobby. And is it wow, let me reset so I can say my words. And it is our pleasure to welcome in Bobby Manning of CLNS Media. Laughing because I messed up the intro the first time around, so I had to redo it. I had to get back in.
Keep it in, coward.
How you doing today, Bobby?
Great. Good to see you guys. Always good to be here on the show. I'm wicked excited for the playoffs. I think we all got kind of bored of the last few weeks there, and it should be an intriguing postseason. I'm a little bummed about the first round series from an intrigue standpoint. I think Miami would have been a ton of fun. Great story. Maybe not an amazing series. And yeah, it would have freaked out the fan base for sure. But man, this one's going to be boring. I think. I don't know if there's too much intrigue in this Atlanta series. It's going to be to some degree, I think, an extension of this regular season where they just kind of rolled.
Agreed.
It's fine. I love it. I wish they could just have a roll every series.
16-0.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
We were talking in our pregame chat because we do pregame shows every game, and someone was like, they need the challenge, and another person was like, oh no, they need to get over Miami, and Sam was like, why would you want anything other than the easier matchup?
They got over Miami last year, and this Miami team's worse. I don't think they would have threatened the Celtics, at least from winning a series perspective. They would have threatened them game to game and kept them on their toes, which I do think this team needs a little bit, to that commenter's point. That I think it would have been great to have a wake-up call around one. Remember last year, everyone was freaking out about the Nets, and I think that series was actually probably a good thing. It didn't extend too long, so it didn't wear them out. It was closely contested, and I think it had them fully alert from the opening tip-off of that game one.
It's true. I remember messaging Jack and Tim last year in our pregame chat. After game 2, I was like, okay, like I think everybody believes now. They got down 17, came all the way back at the Garden and really kind of made it a wash at the end. That was a turning point to me in terms of the confidence in the team. Because like you said, going into that series, the really smart people were saying like 5 games. Like Forsberg, got to give him credit. He was like Celtics in 5, like they're going to kill the Nets. But like a lot of us were like 7 games, 6 games. And it was just like we didn't know what to expect. Game 1 goes to the buzzer. Tatum lays it in on a nice pass from Smart. But that was a game that looked like they kind of blew it. They were up 15. Kyrie got hot in the fourth quarter, had 40 points, and they pulled it out. So after that game 2, everyone started to believe. So I can understand where the value comes in having to actually battle early on. But I sure will enjoy putting my feet up if that is the case.
Oh yeah, it looks like it could be. I mean, I wrote this down here because I wanted to ask you about it. That Hawks Heat game, and I know Sam, you tweeted about this too. It gave me like, if people were scared, that game should have given them confidence because both teams just like the Hawks came out and punched the Heat in the face, and then the Heat made a run, but like you could just tell that the teams are a tier below. Like when you look at the Bucks and the Sixers and the Celtics and the Cavs, like it just was not a very well put together basketball game. And for those watching who were worried about Miami, or for the, I guess 0% of people realistically who are worried about the Hawks, like that game should have probably given some comfort. Like, okay, the Celtics are pretty clearly better than both these teams.
Yeah, every team, and this happened 3 seasons in a row now, that lands in that 7 spot is there for a reason. The Nets last year, Heat this year, and then I even go back to that Lakers-Suns series from 2021 where everyone was picking the Lakers, and it was like, well, the Suns won because they were better all year. Lakers stumbled a little bit and had some injuries and such, and that's the result you ended up with there. Once I saw them have only about 20 points in 10 minutes or so, whatever it was, I said, uh-oh, here we go.
But playoff Jimmy.
Yeah, and it's one guy. I know we'll get to our All-NBA teams in a little bit, but it startles me how rarely he shoots. I know he shot a little bit more in this game, but I think he averaged 13 per game during the regular season. Hero had a solid year. Bam. I know everyone's pointing out that Atlanta schemed well against them, but just a startling performance from him again. And it looked a lot like the East Finals last year where he really struggled to score. And then their depth just disappeared this year. And all those guys who overperformed last year underperformed this year. That game could have been even worse if Kyle Lowry played like he did all year, because Lowry was incredible in that game and held them in and almost pushed them back. So
tough luck.
The Heat weren't good. I am intrigued. I don't know if they could push the Bucks. Like for every reason you would think, oh, maybe they can push the Celtics. I think you have to say, oh, maybe they could push the Bucks too, but I don't see it. They lost both games during the regular season pretty badly when Giannis did play. They won 2 against them, but Giannis didn't play in either of those. So I think that series, if they do go on to beat Chicago here, will probably be a sweeper 5.
That would be funny if like Miami gave the Bucks a bunch of trouble, but nobody talked about it because it's not as fun. Like Perk won't say they would beat Milwaukee. But when it's his Celtics, he'll be like, yeah, they're going.
They did beat him in the bubble. I mean, there was another series after that, right? I forget what year it was, but the Bucks kind of just blew through them the next time around. And I think that's kind of where the Bucks are at now and where the Heat are. I mean, this might be the end of the Heat in terms of contending with the Celtics and these other teams in the East. I don't think they have anywhere to turn here now. I don't think they have young guys on the come up. And their core, well, Butler at least, but Lowry too, they're all aging. Yeah. So if I'm the Heat now, I'm tearing this thing down this summer.
Wow. Yeah, Butler, I mean, getting old, making a ton of money. We had somebody in our stream the other day, Jack, to put the contract out. It's like 45, 46, 48. It gets more.
Then
someone would take him. Someone would take him, I think.
It's just where. Like, that's the thing. Like, what team? And like you said, like there is a team out there that there would be a fit. But, like, looking around the league, I mean, earlier this season, you see – ironically, because it's the Hawks, like Trae Young for Jimmy, maybe they do something there because Trae Young clearly is ditching coaches left and right in Atlanta. And outside of that, it's just like
Chicago,
I feel like that.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, bring him back. I feel like teams are
think of some
probably
teams
more fearful to make a trade for a guy like that nowadays, though, especially after Gobert punched his way out of doing much in Minnesota at the end. I don't know. It's going to be interesting at the very least, but getting back to the Hawks series, this question came up while we live streamed during the game. We like watched it and talked with chat and everything. Bobby, is Trae Young good? That's the question we have for you, and we
I think
obviously
it was
it's
if
half
he's
a joke.
star.
Yeah, it's half a
That's
joke,
what
but
people
like,
are asking.
what's the level? We had somebody say, "Is he better than Jaylen Brown?" To which we both kind of laughed and said, "No, he's not better than Jaylen Brown." But like, he has the potential to make a lot of threes. A very flashy player. You know, he can get to the free throw line when he wants because he loves to back into people. What are your thoughts on Trae Young going into this series?
He's someone you have to account for sure. He's a star. He's a superstar. I think there's another level on top of star he doesn't reach. His offense is spectacular. I do think he'll challenge the Celtics defense in this series and really make them work. He'll push that pace. He'll run great pick and rolls. He'll find shooters. So they're going to have to be pretty sharp defensively to not have some up and down shootout games like that last one they played in Atlanta, the second game between these two this year. That turned into a little bit of an up and down game that I do think the Celtics enjoy playing, but would make this series look a little closer than it actually is, I think, by allowing the Hawks to kind of run and gun. So he's threatening. The free throw thing's real. The Celtics don't foul a ton in my mind, though. I do think he'll be able to line up some mismatches and maybe get a few on a few guys. And the real key that Joe Mazzulla talked about today is that those do prevent Boston from getting out in transition. And if the Hawks set their defense, Capella's playing well. They do have big fours. They're a team that could crowd the paint a little bit and make life difficult for Tatum and Brown in certain instances. So I do see pockets where they could compete with the Celtics and keep things close here, but so much has to go right. The defense just isn't there with him. I mean, there's ways they can scheme to keep him out of mismatches in transition and especially in the half court, but it's difficult. I think the Celtics are a lot more methodical with finding those than the Heat are. I mean, the Heat couldn't find Young in that game. That's one of the biggest reasons they lost. So I'm intrigued by him. He's super talented. I think there's almost some Isaiah similarities here, and he is, I think, a little better overall than Isaiah was at his peak. The passing is incredible. I love his overall offensive arsenal, but he's not a great shooter. He's got range, but he's not super efficient from outside. He never has been. And of course, just the small stature makes it really hard to build around him. And Murray should have helped him this year, and I don't think he really embraced that addition and allowed him to help them at the level he could have. This roster looks so intriguing, and they're just so disappointing.
It is funny you mentioned Capella. Do you think he's going to give the Celtics a problem on the glass this series? You saw him kill Miami. He had 20-something rebounds, 12 on the offensive glass. Didn't even have to score a whole lot to impact the game. Took Bam out of it, like we already kind of talked about.
Yeah, and you might, if that happens, see the Celtics go back to some double big looks in this series and try to harden their defense a little bit. This isn't a series offensively from the Hawks' perspective that I think will challenge the Celtics a little bit defensively. You might have to get Rob more minutes in games to be able to shore up that rebounding because they're going to play small. They have for much of this year with the multiple guards and Tatum and Brown at the 4. Though this is, for some of their slip-ups, the best defensive rebounding team in the league in Boston. So they've handled that well this year. Utah is one of those teams that made it tough. I do think the teams that really went all in on the glass challenge them a little bit, but I talked to Joe about this a little bit the other day. It's like, how much are you going to get away from what you do well to match up with another team, and how much are you just going to do what you do and hope that prevails? And he says we do prefer to just do what we do. And in a first-round series, I don't think you're going to be changing up your rotations, lineups, and game plans a ton just to address a few rebounding slip-ups. It's going to come a lot more from just the guys who are out there and their urgency on that.
Yeah, and I feel like you saw, obviously the Jazz game was later in the season, but you look early on, they had trouble with Vooch and the Bulls. They lost a couple games there. They had trouble with Jared Allen rebounding with the Cavs. So I feel like you have seen the rebounding aspect take advantage or get on the bad side of the Celtics, and they slip up because of, but it just feels like in a 7-game series, he says, like, however long the series goes with the Hawks.
Better not be. This would be a
great
great show if I'm ranting during a 7-game series.
Some shades of 2008.
Yeah. It just feels like all the things the Celtics do well will allow them to sort of overwhelm the Hawks, who just, they, like you said with the DeJounte Murray things, it feels like they've just been sort of disconnected, because on paper, this should be like, it looks like this should be a top 5 team in the East, right? Trae Young's an all-star. DeJounte Murray was an all-star last year. John Collins has shown flashes. DeAndre Hunter shown flashes. He played really well in the playoffs in their series last year. Clint Capella has talent. Like, They have a bunch of young guys off the bench too. It feels like this team should be better than they are, and yet they
have
were
a good coach now too, a really good coach.
Exactly. So it just doesn't make sense that they were like historically average too. They like stayed at 500 for the entire season. It was like impressive. So
well, that actually be good if they continue that into the series.
Yeah. Not fun for the Celtics, but
well, they have won one straight.
Yeah.
So they're due.
They're due to lose.
Lost, and then back and forth they go. I don't know. I can't find many ways to say, because you're always looking for something, right? You don't want to be caught off guard and be like, "Oh, sweep," and then it's 6 games, and you're like, "What happened?" But I just don't see a ton here from their perspective, especially Young's play. Collins, it just hasn't been there this year, and there's a reason they've wanted to trade him for years now. It feels like he just never built on that one great year he had. I think it might have been 2021 or something like that. So I wonder how much they're going to play him in a series like this where the Celtics could really put him in some actions. They're always going to be putting Young in some actions. This team's just very inept defensively, and they're, of course, playing one of the great offenses statistically ever here. So they're going to have a tough time. That Capella thing, too, if Horford's hitting his threes, and that's probably one of the things you're looking for in terms of how close this series plays, if he's hitting 40% of his threes like he has all year, this is going to get ugly for Atlanta pretty fast.
Speaking of Rob, though, earlier, what is your confidence level on Rob's health going into the playoffs? We've seen him have to sit out back-to-backs throughout the season. Lately, I think personally he's looked pretty good, but you're there in the Garden, you're in the press conferences. What do you get kind of vibe from him? I know Joe had a strong message for him, as we would say in a heavy headline the other day.
Yeah, that was great. And I love hearing that because that's what we talk about all the time, right? How much better could Rob become? How much more could he do? Normally when you talk to these guys, they're just like, oh, Rob's great. He's amazing. Like, we love what he does. But you never hear that challenge say, all right, Rob, do a little bit more. Take that jumper, score the ball inside, pass a little bit more. These are things we know he can do. And to hear them challenge him makes me think they're ready for him to take another step in terms of a role, of course, and minutes. Brad talked about it when he did his end of the season press conference, it being encouraging that he got up to that 25 or so minute range before the end of the year. Joe shared a similar sentiment. Every time I talk to Rob, he's felt good this year. I don't think there's been many instances this season outside of the hamstring strain, whatever it was, the hamstring injury, that set him back this year physically. I think he only built as the year went on. It was interesting seeing him come off the bench and play more limited minutes to close the year. I feel like that might be the sweet spot for him because we all want more. We all want more minutes. We all want more impact from him. Maybe the best bet is just to play him 20, 25 minutes and have him full speed ahead in those moments. I asked him about that, and he just kind of said, whenever I'm out there, I'm going to be going full speed ahead. He actually did say something different to Sherrod, my co-host on the Garden Report, when they talked one-on-one earlier this year, kind of insinuating, I guess, that he is kind of saving himself a little bit out there over the longer extended stretches. So I don't know. It's always a mystery around him. You're always waiting for that next shoe to drop. And if you're predicting it, it's hard not to imagine him missing sometime this postseason because that's just been the story of his career. If he's full speed ahead the whole way, and I've said this before, they're going to roll to a title because his impact when he's out there and
more of that.
Yeah, his impact on the game, especially off the bench, right, with Brogdon, they're going to dominate teams in those minutes. I saw they were plus 11 in his minutes off the bench over the final 15 games. That's really tough for opposing teams to match up with, though the Hawks do with Onyeka Okongwu, interestingly enough.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, just the way, me personally, I wrote about this for CelticsBlog, like how Derrick White should stay in the starting lineup. I feel like he's gotten almost comfortable in that bench role. Like he said earlier this season, how he's able to, pick and choose his spots. Okay, they need a little intensity here, they need a little bit of this here. And so he's able to come off. And I do think it's easier to manage his minutes that way. And I think it's better for the Celtics cohesiveness to keep Derrick White in the starting lineup because it allows them to develop that consistency, develop a rhythm, develop a consistent rotation, which they haven't really had all season. They've kind of been experimenting a little bit.
Not only that, it lets him play more, and he's been their best guard this year. They got into some issues in March where he got lost in fourth quarters, and that just can't happen. He's been too good. He's got to play a ton these playoffs. I'm thinking like 40 minutes every game.
He's been that good. I mean, I said this. I've been saying this. He's been their third best player. I think.
Yeah.
And, like he finished 4th in the NBA in plus minus this year, and the 3 people ahead of him were 3 Denver Nuggets. It was Jokic, Aaron.
He's gonna
Gordon,
make first team all defense.
He's got to. It's
Jack was on the
you
train
can't
early.
understand. I love Derrick
Credit.
White. I wrote a whole thing about his defense earlier in the season, like his ability to block shots, just everything about him this season. He's proven capable. And I mean, as much as Marcus Smart's been great and he struggled like a little bit in the second half of the season, in my opinion, like with the playmaking that he showed off in the early portions, like it's making it really hard for you not to say, okay, Derrick, you're the guard now. You're the guy. Like, just you're the point guard. You're the guy with the ball in his hands to lead the offense. I think the offseason really gave him a chance to get comfortable with this team that at a level you didn't see when he got traded here in the first place.
The hot shooting helps too, reaching 38%, ginormous. And that actually was the first thing I noticed in training camp this year was him knocking down shots at a high rate. And, you know, guys always make shots in practice and stuff like that, but he had a few games in the preseason. The release looked a little bit different. Seeing him work with Ben Sullivan was encouraging. And yeah, I wrote a story early this season about his off season, the work he's done, that turbulent arrival everyone's talked about at this point. And it does seem to be a comfort thing. And I think starting probably gave him a big boost too, right away. That was one of the more important decisions by Joe Mazzulla this year, was when Rob wasn't available to start the year. Could have went with Grant, could have went with Brogdon, could have went with, I don't know, Hauser, whoever. They went with White. They went 2 guards. They made him a screener, which I think really opened up the offense, and his defense just blossomed next to Smart's. Super exciting. I agree, Jack. He's really become one of my all-time favorite Celtics. He's just awesome.
Wow. That is a fast climb.
It is. I mean, the guy's great. I always loved him with the Spurs, too, and I'll never forget that deadline last year. When we were kicking around names, if someone brought up White, and a few people did, he wasn't a super popular name. In fact, I think more people looked at Murray and got excited about him. Yeah. But if you brought up White, I think the first thing you'd say was, oh, the Celtics don't have enough to get him. Like, it's just not happening. The Spurs and then all of a sudden, it's Romeo Richardson, a couple firsts, and he's here.
Crazy.
Yeah. To
Crazy
your point with the shift in his role, when he started this year, he started in 70 of the 82, 13 points, 4 assists on 46 and 39 splits compared to just 9
points. How many
turnovers? Turnovers. Oh, it's giving me totals on the turnovers.
Sam struggling.
I think it's just over 1.
He has like
not
one,
much.
Yeah, 1 something, and
that's incredible.
A little less. He only has 9 in the reserve games, but his percentage from 3 is crazy better.
On the season, it's 1.2 turnovers a game.
That's incredible from a point guard.
Nuts.
27.9 off the bench from beyond.
I haven't done the research. Like I would have to go look for it, but I wonder if there was a player who a point guard who averaged fewer turnovers in as many minutes, because I think you'd be hard pressed to find one.
What do they do? We all agree Schuhen, White needs to play as much as possible. You get down to these fourth quarters, close games. You can only have 2.
Yeah, I think it's a play it by ear type thing.
Yeah,
I did want to ask after you go.
No, you're good.
Okay. I did want to ask, how can they get the most out of Smart? Because I feel we mentioned it before. He hasn't been his best since coming back from injury. I see a correlation now. This could be by design because he hasn't been playing as well, but it feels like he's not as involved with distributing the ball and facilitating. It seems like it's gone more to the stars. You're seeing a lot more of Tatum with the ball. You're seeing more of Brown with the ball. At the beginning of the year, you were seeing a ton of playing through Smart. He was getting assists like it was nobody's business. Now it feels like he's more relegated to a catch and shoot rather than trying to create for others. And he's definitely not going to be as effective that way. We've seen it in the past. Yeah,
and I think that happened naturally in his return in terms of finding rhythm again. He missed quite a bit of time there with the ankle before the break. And he did have that great game against Detroit when he came back, but then it was just a couple of really bad weeks for him. The shot slipped a little bit, so you don't want him in that catch and shoot role. You never really do. But you're happy he takes them. And you're right. The best we've seen him so far in his career was when he logged heavy ball time, set the table. Even the 2-man game with Tatum, if he didn't have the ball, he'd still be able to kind of catch the ball in the pocket and make some plays out of there. he's just going to emphasize passing. And this is what we always say with him. A lot of it's going to be kind of a mindset thing for him. And it was very encouraging today. It was actually the first time I've talked to him about this all year. Because really I haven't talked to him a ton for many different reasons, injuries and all the rest over the last couple of months here. He said he's all for sitting if it needs to happen. And it's easier said than done, I think, especially if a series gets a little turbulent and testy and things go wrong for this team. He might want to be out there. So that's one of my big questions it might be the biggest question entering the playoffs is how do you still get the best out of Smart while acknowledging that Brogdon and White might be better options this year at the very least. Now, Smart says he's fresh. He says he's feeling healthier than he's felt in years, and I don't think that was the case even a couple of weeks ago. So that makes you encouraged that he'll just kind of naturally step in and play better, because I do think all these ailments he's gone through have hurt him this year, especially on the defensive end of the ball. That's what I'm most excited to see this series is how he hangs with Murray, how he hangs with Young, because those are tough individual matchups for the Celtics guards in this series. But it's a good question, Sam. How do you get him back in the flow, back in the mix? Because the worst thing you can have is just him slipping and not playing well, and you needing to sit him because of that, and then him just getting a little bit lost out there. Now, would it be the worst thing in the world if he ends up on the bench and plays better there? I mean, that's just kind of the stuff you have to do come playoff time if it has to happen. Now, Brogdon's so set in that bench role, I'd be surprised if that happens. But again, this is, I think, the biggest challenge Missoula faces this postseason is managing those three guys. And it's a good problem to have to some degree, the fact that they're all so good.
True.
You could even play all three of them together, I think, for stretches. I don't think they did that enough during the year to try to get them some chemistry playing all together. But it does puzzle me a little bit. I don't know how they're going to manage that.
I will say, I think starting two guards and keeping Rob off the bench is beneficial because you don't have to worry
that's
about
the easy one
off the bench. So I think that's a good fix because, like, I was talking to Cam Tabatabai Celtics Lab for CLNS, shout out. And he mentioned, like, the combo of Rob and Brogdon off the bench is better than Brogdon and either one of the two guards because just, like, for the flow of things, like having a guard and a big makes a little bit more sense for rotations, for the pairing, for like the general flow of the game. So I think that's going to be huge as well, or like a big part of staying in a rhythm. But the other sort of rotational thing I wanted to talk about, there's been plenty of Grant Williams discourse this season. He took it on the chin. He made fun of himself the other day on Twitter.
Good
he
for
made
him.
sure. Yeah. But with how well Sam Hauser has played these last couple weeks, right? He's really established himself as like, he can play when he needs to be. He can be like a legitimate scoring option for the Celtics, running plays for him.
And can defend.
And he's a solid defender. I mean, it's not a player stat by any means, but best defensive rating in the league. Like, it's just kind of funny.
Defensive player of the year, some would say.
Do you think, since the Hawks aren't a particular, like, they're not a team you necessarily need Grant size against, like, you could probably stick Sam Hauser on one of their wings. Do you think there's a chance that he earns those minutes over Grant in this series?
Definitely, because you saw him explode against this team during the regular season. This is arguably, and I'm going to stack up the points here, the best team he played against all year. Yeah, 53 points rather against the Hawks, leads any team he played against this year. He shot 17 for 25 from three against this team this year.
Oh, they have to hate him.
Yeah.
The fans. All two of them.
So yeah, I think you start out going to him, feeding him some minutes, feeding him some run. Because the one thing about Hauser is I don't think you're going to get anything from him playing him 4 or 5 minutes. I just don't think that's the kind of player he is. 1-2 shots determining how he plays. You got to commit to him. And that does unfortunately mean getting away from Grant a little bit. And I thought Grant had a tough day on that last game of the regular season. A few really awkward plays. One play where he wanted to foul and sat down. The ISO was the story of his season, really. I mean, that play just plagued his season. The up fake out of the corner, trying to attack closeouts. He performed terribly in that spot, and I think it threw him completely off balance in terms of how he plays from the corner. The guy's just got to shoot, and I don't know what's gotten into him where he can't get these shots off. Like, you look at his shot totals too. Even when he plays a lot, it's like 5-6 shots a game. He's gonna lose minutes if he keeps doing the things he's doing. Jab stepping in the corner, sizing guys up, taking too long to make decisions. Even defensively against the Sixers, I know Embiid's rolling at a high level, but he didn't put any resistance against them in that 52-point game. Just got torched out there. So I'm torn on this because I do think you play the best players and you roll with who's getting it done. But I do think they'll need him in some series later on where is it worth sitting him on the bench round one, losing him a little bit mentally, and then going to round two against Philadelphia, you need him suddenly, and is he ready to go at that point? I don't think this series against Atlanta is difficult enough where you're fooling around with rotations and trying new things just to match up. As we said before, you can come in here, do what you do. I think Grant is a part of what they do. And Hauser, he's next up, right? If a guy goes down, he'll be playing. But in my opinion, I don't think they should go there. I think they should stick with Grant. I won't be surprised at all if they do, though.
And to your point, you mentioned like Hauser needs the rhythm. He needs the minutes if he's going to be effective. I did the math after the Raptors game, so this doesn't include the final game of the season. He played 20-plus minutes in 24 games this year. In those games, Hauser averaged 11 points, 4 rebounds, 1.2 assists, shot 48.6% from the field and 47.2% from deep. The volume was 7.9 shots a game, 6.8 threes.
He shot better than Grant this year. He really did.
Nuts. It's insane, but he
His
needs the minutes to
is
get
crazy too.
Oh yeah,
as it should be.
I saw I saw his brother Joey in the hallway. I think during that last game. And I was like, what's gotten into Sam? All these dunk attempts. And he's like, man, his confidence must be through the roof.
It's good. Need it. You need that mentality.
That's crazy. That last game, he actually tried to dunk on somebody.
I mean, 0 dunks all season. And then what was it? The last 2 or 3 games, he had 3 or 4 or something like that.
Not only 0 dunks, he was 0 for 1. He missed a dunk, and that was the only attempt he had. Nuts.
I do have a quick Jalen question.
Are we forgetting Blake?
What did he actually do?
Are we forgetting Blake, by the way, in this mix?
My thing is, if Blake were to get minutes, it would be at center, right? Because as much as you can play him with Rob and or Al, like you'd probably just rather go to Hauser or Grant because of the shooting. But if Rob does need a break, or if Rob, twists his ankle or something happens where he's going to miss a game, Blake's next, right? In that center rotation. Cornette's been good this year. I've been a big, Cornette guy. I think he's been fine. Muscala's been all right. I like, even when he's been on the court, you see a little bit of a lapse defensively and the shot's not always there, but Blake Griffin, everything else he brings to the court, he's got to be the next up. And if Rob doesn't need a break, it's got to be him.
I didn't like the signing. I loved what he gave them the last couple weeks of the year. The guy just makes good. Again, we talked Grant not making the best decisions. Blake always makes good decisions out there, and the energy's real. He's going to be part of this playoff picture somehow, some way. Is it every night? Probably not. There'll be places where he factors in. I don't want to say large role, but there'll be nights, I think, where Blake Griffin's part of the story of this team in the playoffs.
Yeah, I said it to Jack a couple times. He literally got the only stop on Embiid in that game. He was the only person that stopped Embiid. He stripped him in the fourth quarter.
That's why I asked that. Does he dig in a little bit into those Grant minutes or roll, or even the front center minutes, just for a little bench boost sometimes? The tough part is he really can't put the ball in the net. The threes aren't there. I guess it's okay for the center position. The rim protection's not great with them. And you just see the physical limitation out there, but he does make up for so much of it with his mind, with his positioning, with his passing, with all of these little things he does. And he really does prepare to be out there. So, a couple of days go by, he doesn't play. He's pretty fresh for these games, and he gives them some rock solid minutes. I was super pleasantly surprised with what he gave them during the year.
This is very much an imperfect comparison, and people aren't going to like it that much, but in terms of his impact, it kind of feels like he's just an older, not as good Draymond in a sense, right? He's going to give you the energy. He can't really shoot, but he will every once in a while. The passing has been astounding. Like, he's been a really good passer when he's gotten the ball in his hands in that spot. Like, he's obviously not going to do that on the defensive end. He's not going to be that much of a leader, but the energy, the constant hustle, the willingness to dive and break a bone for the team, like, it's kind of the role he's gotten. And even more important than that, the contentness to sit on the bench and not play when he's not needed, right? Like, there's no
huge.
ego, there's nothing. So
not only that, but he embraced that bench role. All
Mm-hmm.
he did all year was talk to Luke, Peyton. Like, you could have seen a superstar looking at those guys and being like, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna hang out with these guys." He loved it. That guy, he embraced those guys. And yeah, that, the bus one thing, I think it's real. I think he deserves more credit than anyone for keeping Peyton engaged through the whole thing he went through this year. Whatever value that provided them, I think Blake deserves a lot of credit there. I think he, stayed in Luke's ear when Luke was hurt and stuff early on and not part of the picture. You can even throw Sam into that camp too. He had a major, major drought. I think one of the big reasons those guys persevered and ended up playing pretty well to close the year was Blake.
Mm-hmm. Agree, 100%. And we don't want to keep you too long. We know you want to get out of here. So I did want to talk about all NBA teams, so we can jump into that quick. Sam and I did our sort of predictions a couple weeks ago. A lot has changed since then. The Mavericks decided that they didn't want to play basketball anymore. My list is unchanged, by the way. But I know you tweeted about it. And so I know you've been thinking, I don't know if you have like a set list of your all NBA teams. I made one very briefly. Okay, perfect. I'd love to. Do you want to go team by team and we can compare?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Bobby, what's your first team? What you got?
The first team. So I'm not looking at this much from a wins perspective. I really do go just production numbers and what you did out there. I don't really care what your team did, or, I think to some degree you factor in what you contributed to winning, but I do have Luka first team. The numbers are just astounding. I know the end of the year stunk, but he shot 50% of 22 shots. Great from 2, 24th in rebounds, 2nd in points, 6th in assists. He's got to be on there for me. Shea, I think that one's going to kind of be a slam dunk. Just a ridiculous scoring year. What did he finish? 4th in scoring, 51% from the field. Did it without threes. 4th in steals too, on a pretty good defensive team. He's on there, and then it's Tatum, Giannis, and strangely enough, I do go Jokic there, just from a numbers standpoint. Stuff in the stat sheet.
That calf injury stuck with Bobby as well as me when Embiid said he's not going to play against Jokic.
That's funny.
69 games. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. I did jip Luka here just because the end of the season, and for me it was between Luka and Shea for first team because I put Donovan Mitchell on my first team as well. I think his play late in the season, I think he averaged like 40 for like 2 straight weeks towards the end of the year. His play at the beginning of the season was equally as great. He had a 71-point game. He has the Cavs as a top 14 seed in the East. Like, everything he brought to that Cavs team, that's why I put him on first team. I have SGA as well. I originally had Luka and then I flipped them because I did take winning into account there. I just thought the way SGA carried a Thunder team that wasn't really, I mean, I think their over-under win total without Chet was like 17, something absurd. And now they're in the second game of the play-in.
It was a great story. Yeah, they didn't get
great team
for the year they had.
Absolutely. And then Tatum, Giannis, I think that should be as close to unanimous as you're going to get for first team. And then I had Embiid. But again, like, that's really a coin flip between those two, in my opinion.
All right, second team, I went.
Wait, Sam, what's yours? Sam's in here silent. Sam, come on.
I didn't know Sam had one. You got a list?
Jump in, Sam.
All right, yeah. So I had Donovan Mitchell too.
Okay.
I am a big
I can't
knock
anyone who wants to put Mitchell on there.
I am the Bizarro Bobby. I need the wins. So Ja is there for me as well, even though he got suspended and he had his gun. Giannis, Tatum as well, even though Tatum played like me for a month and a half, and then Jokic. I think the Embiid thing really pissed me off, and we did this the first time, so I didn't change it. Luka not on here because attitude's important too, and he said he was sad.
He didn't make any of your teams?
No. He's on the second team.
Sam, the generational hater. All right, Bobby, what you got for second team?
I went Lillard. I had to put Lillard on one of these teams. 32 points a game, 37% on 11 threes, 8 free throws a game with 7 assists. It's like, 50 points produced a game almost. I wish they had a stat for that, by the way, but I haven't found one. Donovan Mitchell, he's first or second, whichever way you want to put it. Impact on that team, tremendous. super efficient, 71-point game, all the rest. I went Jimmy on the second team. You look at the numbers with him, pretty astounding. He played a lot too, 64 games, top 20 in limiting turnovers, 23 a game, 5 assists, 54% from the field. Actually shot 35% from three, even on a small volume. That's pretty good. And fourth in a lot of these analytics, like fourth overall. I actually think he statistically pushed Tatum a little bit for first when you look at the total package, but he just didn't shoot enough for a team that really needed offense.
Yeah.
I got to keep him on two there. I went Markkanen, second team. Again, I'm not as concerned about the winning here. 12th in scoring in the league, 25th in rebounding, 2 offensive rebounds per night, which was actually a ton, 50% on 17 attempts. So he was launching it and hitting. 3 threes per game was the most among all the contenders for this spot. Only turned the ball over 8% of the time. And they were a top-tier offense all year, built around him. He was the centerpiece of all that. So I bumped them up to 2. And then, of course, Embiid on the second team.
For sure. I had Luka on my second team since I didn't have him on first team. I had Steph on my second team. Just the way they played when he wasn't on the court versus when he was on the court. Like, I think the record was similar. Like, I think they were like around a 500 team regardless, but just like you could tell the difference in how they had to play and his stats. Like, if he didn't miss games, he'd be a top 5 MVP candidate this game. And the reason he missed games is probably why he's not a first team candidate for me. I had your second team forwards are my third team forwards. I had Jaylen Brown, Julius Randle for my forward spots for the second team. I had Jaylen Brown winning team up there in scoring, the impact he had. I just think it's up there. I think the forwards on second and third team are very interchangeable in my opinion. And then Julius Randle, his bounce back season for the Knicks, I think I did value winning a decent amount in this. They're a top 5 team. They're running the second half of the year. I wish I could put Jalen Brunson on one of these teams. Spoiler, I didn't. There's just the guard position is ridiculous this season. And then obviously Jokic, since he wasn't on my first team, is what I had there.
Yeah, I had Luka too. Big winner guy, De'Aaron Fox. I had on the second team just because of how remarkable that Kings team has been this year compared to what everyone thought they were going to be preseason. I know Draymond literally dropped them as, hey, we're not going to try against this team because they're bad. He said that on the shop earlier before the season started, and now they're playing them in the playoffs as the lower seeds, so that's something else. Jaylen Brown was on my second team as a forward, 1, green-colored glasses, but 2, truly remarkable as playing alongside Tatum, getting almost, 28 points a game. Really had a monster second half of the season. Once he put the mask on, he was nasty.
He's really the best player.
The Celtics, it literally could be. I mean, Tatum, again, playing like me for a month and a half, and Brown was just excellent. He powered them through a lot of that cold stretch from Tatum. He gave them good stuff, and that team is a winning team. And then I had Markkanen, just like Bobby. It is funny, though. I credit Markkanen because of how well that Jazz team competed for a lot of the season. Yeah. I know Conley was a driving force.
They should have made the playoffs. I feel like if they decided they wanted to, they could have.
Yeah.
Instead, they elected to help the Lakers.
Yeah.
Everyone just like, here, have some free players, and the Lakers are here. And then I had Embiid on the second team as well.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
All right. On to the third. The third was really hard. So many good players this year. At one point, I would have had Halliburton as a shoe-in. I couldn't get him on there with the games, and it stinks. Again, another team that kind of just sat him down late and folded. He had an amazing year. That's definitely at the top of the honorable mentions here. You'd love to credit for Holiday for defense. Couldn't do it. Just not enough offense. Brunson, I really, really want to put on here.
That was my issue.
Yep. So hard to leave him off. And then Garland, probably like the super honorable mention guy who's not going to get enough honorable mention. So I did go with Ja, which I labored over. The hiatus and some streaky play after was tough, but he still finished top 10 in scoring, top 5 in assists, and only 4 guards rebounded more than him.
Best team in the league too. 16th
in offensive rap there, 17th in those catch-alls that Andy Bailey does. So he's pretty high up there in the analytics. And 95th percentile offensive plus minus. All pretty good. Number 3 defense too. I know that's Jaren Jackson, a lot of those other guys, but he was out there and part of it. So he fits on this. I know you had him first, Sam, right?
Yes.
John Morant, yeah.
So I feel
Crazy.
much better about having him third because again, many guards here who are tough to grapple with. And this is the one I really labored over: Curry versus Fox. Fox played 77 games, and I do want that to matter. I might have even made a mistake here going with Curry, but I did.
Okay.
Head and hands.
Yeah.
Tough decision.
Really tough. And you know what? I want this list to kind of be the story of the season. And I look back and say, was Curry really like one of the bigger stories of this season? And honestly, if you really think about it, probably not. But it was, I assessed the stats, 30 a game, 43% from 3 on 11 attempts, 6 assists. As Jack said, different player when he's out there. I think this was a fair compromise, like putting him third, having him on here. Snubbing Fox, who honestly the statistical profile wasn't great, especially defensively. Really, really struggled. That team really struggled on that end. And Curry's just got some really eye-popping stats you can't ignore. A little light on games played, 56, probably like right at the line of what you should consider, or maybe even below it. Of course, he wouldn't be eligible in many seasons.
Did you have him, Jack?
I put him on just now. Originally, I didn't because we did this a couple weeks ago. And we made the line like we did like 70% of the games, but like you said, it's very tough. It's very close, and I do think this was like a weird season, but still,
I might go back and in time regret and say I had Fox, but I had to stick with it once I put it on paper.
Playoffs could sway you. Even though it's a regular season.
Postpartum.
Sabonis easy, and again, that makes me feel a little better too that the Kings did have some representation.
Do you have him as a forward or a center?
I have him as center.
Okay, good.
He didn't play forward all year, and that's where Davis is going to get a lot of forward votes. I don't get it. He didn't play forward all year. I do think Davis pushed him pretty hard over the last couple months here for this last spot, but 14 triple doubles, 62% from the field, led the NBA in rebounding, top 10 in assists out of anybody. It's just incredible stuff from him. I still remember him like making Rob look silly too, just like putting his chest into him and finishing with that left hand in that I think it was the Sacramento game, the second of the two. So he was amazing, ginormous impact in the trade. Guy, I really loved the idea of the Celtics adding last year, by the way, and I think you would have seen a similar offensive impact here if they did do something like that. But Kings got him, were very bold, and ended up being a good trade. So we'll see where they go in the playoffs. Forward, Randall's in there for me. 77 games, heavy lifting, great team, and an awesome offensive year. I know he drives the Knicks fans crazy, but he's on there. And then I do have Jalen. And if I had to like stack up all these guys in terms of like who deserves to make it, I do think Jalen squeezes in last. Everything you said is right, Jack. The contribution to winning, the scoring efficiency, and the growth as the season went on. And Pina had some good numbers on him because he had him second team, just like you did. Third in fast break scoring, 67% on the fast break. Ridiculous stuff. Effective
mid-range numbers.
Mid-range numbers. Rival Durant. Finishing 70%, just like Tatum. The analytics made it tough, though. And I know we kicked around why they're a little weak. Maybe he doesn't play with Tatum a ton. They stagger them. The bench unit hurt him. I don't know what it is, but they really did lag. Like, whatever ones you looked at, he struggled to create some real separation from, like, league average guys analytically. And I don't know if it's the turnovers. I don't know if it's the free throws or that, how they used them. But that knocks him down to 3 for me, as well as all the stuff I said about Markkanen. I'm super curious. I know Bernardoni thinks he's a lock. The voting looks good as I look at it right here. He's got on the ballot so far 6 second-team votes, which are a huge boost since you get the extra points, 3 third-team votes, and I really haven't seen many ballots that left him off, maybe like 1 or 2, and there's not a lot out there yet, but I think he makes it. I just wonder how much the pedigree of LeBron, who did have a big, big season statistically, Kawhi, who was 50, 40, 90 almost, Durant, whose numbers at the bare minimum amount of games you could play were just startling. And I think, would he win 21 of his final 23 games he played this year?
Something obscene, yeah.
It's going to be tight. I think he ends up third team. I think he's probably that last guy in there, but he does deserve to be there, I think, and I think he will be.
Yeah, my third team was very similar. I think, at least in terms of the forwards and center. I think we flip-flopped our second and third team, Bobby. I had Butler and Markkanen. I think you had them second team, and I had Brown and Randall my second team. I had John Morant on my third team as well. I had De'Aaron Fox on my third team, which means the real snub was Lillard for me. It just like for me, it came down to because like I did value winning a lot when I was making this. I thought Fox and dragging the Kings to the playoffs like that was such a huge accomplishment for him. I thought
sitting
John
down
Morant,
in the year is tough too, like Louis did.
Exactly. And for me, it was either Curry or Lillard because they both played like Lillard only played 2 more games than Curry did this season, which is like crazy to think about. And so I went with Curry, and I do think both of their numbers are good enough. Like any other season, those numbers are first team numbers, right? Like the numbers across the board this year were insane. Like another thing that I noticed, Jaylen Brown's numbers this year were almost identical to what Jason Tatum put up last year on All-NBA first team. That's how much offense was up this season. That's how much numbers across the board were up. So I thought that was impressive. So I had Morant, Fox, and then obviously I had Butler, Markkanen, and also Sabonis. The other one for me is Sabonis isn't a forward. You can't count him as a forward. I wish I could though, so I could put Brook Lopez on third team because Brook Lopez had an insane season. He deserves a credit. He deserves a credit, but you would think,
a lot of people are saying the Celtics deserve 2 because of the season they had. So in that case, you do look at the Bucks and say, who's there 2?
Mm-hmm.
And it's either Holiday or Lopez.
They both deserve it, but it's just packed. Anyway, Sam.
I have a very difficult time conceding that Brook Lopez is good because he looks like he's the Tin Man out there.
He's not an All-NBA guy, but he's he'll be all.
He had an impact, undoubted. Like he's just a big tree down there. Like people were shouting him for Defensive Player of the Year. It's not a joke as much as like it looks funny watching him play sometimes. But I had Shea, who very well could have moved up on either of those other 2 teams. I just was a big strict winning guy, but they're in the play-in. Very well could get into the playoffs if they beat Minnesota tomorrow. I had Brunson. His impact to that Knicks team's season is just unreal. I mean, he really turned them around last year. They were, of course, like average. Randall's on there because there's no forwards. And then I had Siakam too because his stats were pretty intriguing. Again, I didn't think that there was many forwards. And then Sabonis.
Okay. There you go. For what it's worth, looking at the voting, Bobby, you were mentioning right now, the guards would be, if it ended now, obviously there's a lot to go. Guards would be SJ, Donovan Mitchell, first team. This is based on the awards tracker, based on whose votes have come in. SJ, Donovan Mitchell, first team. Luka Doncic on second team with, it looks like De'Aaron Fox, second team. And then
that one. Easy.
Third teams would be Steph Curry, third team. And then right now it's tied between Dame and Drew Holiday sneaking onto third team. So
no Fox is second, you said?
Fox would be second right now. He's got 30 total points right now. 9 second team votes, which is really carrying him in the voting there. Forward's a bit weird because you have some people counting Luka Doncic as a forward. So technically Luka Doncic would be on third team, but he can't because he's a guard. So I don't know how that's going to work. But right now, forwards would be Giannis Tatum running away with first team, Jimmy Butler, Jaylen Brown on second team, and then Markkanen and Randall third team, with Luka Doncic having more current points than Lauri Markkanen, which is just like
that sounds
dumb.
Fitting. That sounds like fitting teams.
And then it would be Embiid, Jokic, Sabonis. I did wonder though, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think it would be funny if Embiid won MVP, but Jokic got first team and you get a Marc Gasol situation. And because it's possible, but
I think it could. Yeah. But you would think there'll be a lot of overlap in how people vote for that.
I agree. Anyways, held you longer than I intended to. I apologize for that.
No problem.
Thank you for jumping on. You want to let people know where to find you and everything? I always let the guests say it because I always mess it up.
Yeah, of course. CLNSmedia.com, CelticsBlog.com, and Boston Sports Journal every Saturday. Got something new coming out there. And I did interview Ben Sullivan for them last week, which was a pretty good conversation about Celtics future after Ime, his future, all the coaches leaving and how that impacted him. And I'm excited to maybe catch up with Damon Stoudemire when I head down to Atlanta. Of course, he's taking over Georgia Tech, so he'll be right there in Atlanta. I'm sure he'll go some of the games and catch this first round series. And I'm excited to go down there too. A lot of writers very upset it was in Miami, but I'm okay with Atlanta. I haven't been there. I'm interested to see it.
There you go. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. And again, a huge thank you to Bobby for joining us on the show today. You can check him out on Twitter at @RealBobManning. Check out his podcast, Garden Report and Dome Theory. Check him out on CelticsBlog, CLNS Media, and Boston Sports Journal. Get all the content there. Thank you to him. And now it is time for the rat list, Sam. I'm going to let you lead off because I didn't prepare well enough, so I don't necessarily have one off the dome. So I'll let you go.
Okay, first rat list, DeMar DeRozan's kid. I've seen enough of her on my timeline today. I woke up. One, no decorum on the sidelines as an honorary guest of an NBA player, screaming at the top of your lungs to try and distract the other team. Yeah, it's great or whatever. But I woke up today when I found out the Bulls won, wanting Pat Bev, and I didn't get Pat Bev, even though there was a Pat Bev quote because of DeMar DeRozan's kid. She stole the show.
Oh,
so
man.
she ruined my Twitter timeline when I woke up at 6 today. And if you want to get mad at me all you want. At the end of the day, you're an NBA player. Knock down your free throws. There's 20,000 people screaming. Should we pick a fan every game and give them a medal because guys miss free throws?
Let me ask you this, though, because the story of the game should have been Zach LaVine. So would you rather DeMar DeRozan's kid get the credit, or would you rather Zach LaVine get the credit? And I know that's a tough decision for you.
Pat Bev.
Not an option because
well, I'm not convinced the Bulls are doing anything without Pat Bev. He gets there and all of a sudden they have some heart.
All right.
They became the first 10th seed ever to win a play-in game from what they said on Twitter yesterday. That could be wrong. I don't really care about the play-in. But Pat Bev, a Warrior, a play-in legend. I really hope they built Miami on Friday so he can celebrate.
Continue his playoff streak. That would be the goal. You'd love to see
Pat Bev rules. Pat Bev would be a magnificent Celtic if
we go.
If they had room for him, but they kind of don't.
Yes. All right. My rat list, the Sun. I can't think of anything.
The Sun.
The Sun goes on the rat list.
Is this a classic Jack versus outside?
No, it's
moment?
a classic Jack versus 80 degrees, me sweating in my room. That's what it's Jack against. This is ridiculous. I hate it. My hands are sweating when I touch my phone. My legs are sweating from sitting on the chair doing a podcast for an hour. I'm dying. This is horrendous. Give me December. Give me winter. Give me snow. I'll go dive in the snow. I'll have a good time. Snow is pretty. Sun is not. Sun, rat list, stay there. L. Hate it. Just horrendous. Also, rat list. Oh, what game was this? Pelicans, rat list. You're down by 5. The Thunder inbounded the ball. Don't foul. You lost. Too bad. I'm sorry. Right?
They
didn't win the game.
I think I had the game on. I think I fell asleep before the game ended.
Or maybe they were down by 3.
Can you hear
so
that?
I guess I can hear the beep. Was it a fire alarm?
It was
Beeping?
Somebody blasting music.
Oh, I didn't hear that, but I think I'm wrong. I think they were down by 3. And so if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander missed both free throws, could have been that. If it was 4 or 5, rat list. Otherwise, maybe. But the Sun is the real rat list today. Anyways, I don't know if you have
second rat list.
Ooh.
Kind of fat list. I already did the joke a couple episodes ago. Zion. Steven Jackson said, I believe it was on All the Smoke. Yes. He called him out for not playing last night. He said, I think your teammates will respect you more if you try and give it a shot. Now, there were quote unquote reports of rumblings from that locker room that they were unhappy. Larry Nance went on Twitter and said, no, we all respect him. Good on him for probably lying.
Good teammate. Good. Okay. Well,
because
sure.
I mean, Zion not playing a lot of basketball.
No,
he's been cleared to play. That's
team
what
has cleared
said.
him. His camp is not.
Yep.
All right. Fair enough. There we go. Is
Him
that all
and
the
Ben
rats you got
Simmons,
today?
They don't like playing.
And rat list. Is that all the rats for you today?
I believe so. Yes, I don't have a ton. Honorary mention that's not really rat involved.
Beautiful. Love it.
It's kind of funny that the Mavs are going to bring Jason Kidd back. Not so much that he's done a bad job, because you can make the argument that he didn't.
Players
because
like him
they went to the Western Conference Finals. Players reportedly like him,
Sure.
but his quotes are unmatched, saying nobody's dying as the team's season is going to shit.
Unwilling to stray away from his beliefs. So there's that, I suppose.
And he likes the backwards hat.
That he
Also,
does.
Bobby didn't answer my question about Jaylen Brown.
I don't think you ever asked
We got
it.
sidetracked. I tried to
You
ask
did.
him. We never got to it.
What'd you try to ask him?
I wanted to know if he thought he really cut his hand on a vase.
We should have asked him. I feel like he did.
I don't think so.
We don't have to speculate what happened. Thank you guys for listening to our conversation with Bobby, to our nonsense, to the rat list. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. I am dying to get out of this room and maybe outside, maybe to go play some basketball where I can sweat some more, but at least it won't be a disgusting sit in my chair sweat. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate it. I think we're probably still sitting at 301. If I'm correct, I'll double check now. But We'll do the VAR real quick.
Okay.
We are at 3:01 still.
All
So
right.
go sub there. We appreciate it. We did a long stream watching Hawks Heat. So thank you guys for
Stream
tuning
actually
in.
didn't do bad.
No,
Good
it was
amount of
good.
views.
It was a good time. We'll be live for pregame on Saturday before the game. Check us out on Spotify. Hit the 3 dots, leave us a 5-star review and a rating, as well as Apple Podcasts. If that's where you watch, 5-star rating, leave a review. And if you're going to be mean to us in the YouTube comments. That's what we always say. We'll accept the negativity there. So we appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much for listening or watching. If you watched on YouTube, we want to say thank you, especially. Make sure you subscribe, leave a like, and some comments. I truly enjoy going through the comments and laughing. If you guys hit the funny bone, sometimes you guys just aren't funny though. So what are you gonna do?
Try to be funny. Make us laugh in the comments.
Yes. Also, go subscribe to Heavy Celtics YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Heavy. Got to meet the Avengers today. Also, if you're listening, make sure you subscribe us on whatever streaming service you may be listening on, whether that's Apple or Spotify. Hit the follow button, leave 5 stars, and just be mean to us on YouTube, like Jack said. If you want more of us, at How About Them C's on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The Facebook page is just the name of the podcast. You can catch us there live before every game with the pregame, as well as on the YouTube, the Heavy Celtics YouTube, and the Heavy on Celtics Facebook page. We should see you again Sunday. The recording window is a bit iffy after that game because Jack is going, but we are planning
Saturday.
on next day pods.
Oh, live Sunday. I see what you mean. Yes.
We are planning on next day pods after every playoff game. We're hoping to get that done for you.
We're trying. Yes.
Yes.
I should be home by like 7 or 8. Maybe
Okay.
like 9 or 10. Like I'll be there later.
We can do it late because I'm supposed to go out that day.
That's fine then. Perfect.
With that though, follow Jack at Jack Simone NBA. Keep your eyes peeled. He is working on a Celtics blog piece. He has worked very hard. You can follow me at Sam LaFrance NBA for me tweeting about maybe I'll buy the Tatum shoes if he doesn't suck in the playoffs. That's it for us. Bye.
Taco. Come on. Taco.